Hi, good evening, and welcome to Life with Lipedema, loved, valued, and treasured. My name is Tamara Carroll, and I am your host tonight. And I'm just excited to be here. We have a really great guest that's joining a little bit here, and it's somebody I think you all know and love. So, yay, just super excited to have her. But first, I want to know where you're coming from, and if you're watching the live or if you're watching the replay. So, please drop that in the comments. I would love to just invite you to join the conversation. And even though we can't see your beautiful faces, we can just be together and share conversations. So if you have any comments or questions, please jump right into the conversation. And even on the replay, please do that. Okay, so what I'm going to do first, I always love the inspiration. I always like to look for something positive. So this one is called Never Give Up. And it reminds me a lot of our host. I'm a host, a little confused there. Hi, Denise, welcome. It reminds me of our guest. And so it's called Never Give Up. Never give up, never lose hope. Always have faith. It allows you to cope. Trying times will pass, as they always do. Just have patience. Your dreams will come true. So put on a smile. You'll live through your pain and know it will pass, and strength you will gain. Hi, everyone that's joining. Hi, Jenny. Hi, V. Welcome, welcome. And I was just saying, please be sure and join the conversation with us tonight. So first, I'd like to read my guest bio, and then we'll bring her in and we'll just have some great conversation. Gerri Hamel has been diagnosed, and I don't even know if I can say this word. Hi, Chris, welcome. It is, oh my goodness, it's such a big word. Lipedema. Good thing she's a nurse because she can come in and tell me how to say that. Chronic venous insufficiency. I have that too. I bet some of us do. Lipedema and lymphedema. Although she was diagnosed with lymphedema and lipedema later in life, she realized through independent research that she developed lipedema around the age of 9 when she entered puberty. She worked as a nurse on a medical inpatient unit, home care, and as a nurse reviewer for a health insurance company. She is currently retired from nursing, and since 2018, she has been invited to speak for Lipedema Simplified as a fellow lipedema warrior. She believes that we need to educate and advocate for ourselves and others who are unaware of the effects of lipedema on our body, our mind, and our spirit. So that was the formal bio. She didn't even give me that one. That one came from Lipedema Simplified. But here's Gerri that I know. Gerri is kind, empathetic person who lives with her strong faith in Jesus. She is and has been involved in volunteer work with survivors of domestic violence, as well as children with varying disabilities whom attend her church. She tries to live by 1 Corinthians 13:13, which says, now these things remain, faith, hope, and love, and the greatest of these is love. So please join with me in welcoming Gerri.
Hi, Tamara. How are you?
Hi, Gerri. I'm so happy that you're here. And I was just telling you earlier that I was telling them just how beautiful you are, and I think you need a new picture. Just very, very beautiful.
We'll work on that.
Thank you so much for joining. Can you pronounce that word for me? I don't know if you heard it.
I did, and you did pretty well with it. Flebo. Lipolymphedema. That's all. Flebo. And flebo, like phlebotomy, if you get your blood drawn. So that just has to do with blood. So it's a chronic venous insufficiency, lipedema, and lymphedema.
Which is your circulation and how your veins are operating or not operating, I'm sure.
Are not operating Right. Yeah, I guess due to the elasticity problems that we have throughout our lymphatic system, it affects our blood vessels as well. So and they become leaky, and I got varicose veins everywhere. It's a roadmap.
I know. So, can you take about 5 minutes and just share with us a little bit about your story, how you came to find out about lipedema, and just your personal insight on that so far?
Sure, I'd be glad to. Like she said, I looking back on pictures and reading through the research, I realized that I had developed lipedema and lymphedema probably by the age of 9 or 10 when I first started into puberty. So I noticed a lot of weight gain, and my schoolmates were kind enough to let me know also that they noticed a lot of weight gain in not so kind words.
Yeah.
I became very shy and just not non-confrontational. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to be part of, the teasing and stuff. So that affected me quite deeply.
Yeah.
And I had a heart for people. So, that was one of the reasons I got into nursing. But anyhow, in the hospital in 2017, I ended up with fluid overload. And it had been from a multitude of, stress, diet changes, and some medical issues that were going on. And I wasn't really sure what was happening, but it had gotten so severe they put me in and put me on an IV Lasix drip. And Lasix is used as a diuretic. And I ended up, in the 2 weeks I was there, I ended up probably losing about 50 pounds of fluid.
Wow.
It was that severe. But in the meantime, while I was on that drip, I had really little else to do but, go to the bathroom and try to catch my breath. So I started looking online. Lymphedema. Yeah. And I thought, well, okay, I don't know much about it. No one's really educated me. They throw the words around, and I thought maybe I had lipedema as well. I wasn't really sure. I really didn't understand that. I was getting it mixed up with the other word for high cholesterol, which just escaped my mind right now. But anyhow, I started looking up, and I kept coming across the name Catherine Seo. And during that time, I didn't know her, but she seemed like such a warm, compassionate person. I just learned so much from her, and she put it into lay terms, which even as a nurse, when it becomes your own issue, you kind of get lost in all the medical jargon and mumbo jumbo. And, I understood a lot of it, but my fear and anxiety were taking over my brain. So she just made it so much simpler, and light bulbs started going off in my head. So she was presenting a master class for the first time. And like I said, that would have been in 2018. She was going to have this master class. And I asked a couple questions about what it was, what it would entail, the cost, and all of that. And instead of answering my questions back through the emails and stuff that I was sending, she called me. My phone started ringing, and she said, "Hi, this is Catherine Seo, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the master class."
Wow.
And I was floored.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, yeah, that's the kind of person Catherine is. She is just such a warm, compassionate person, and she cares about us in this community. And I tell you, I don't know where I'd be without her. Meeting her all those years ago, and with all that she has done for us in this community, it's just a wonder. And with all the issues that she goes through, because she has it, she's that much more passionate and compassionate about it.
Right.
So she started talking about it. And so I took the master class, and wow. My whole world opened up. I finally started understanding why I couldn't lose the weight, why
Mm-hmm.
the weight just kept piling on, and in certain areas, like my legs were
Right.
so heavy, I called them my so, and so, and a lot of women have said that. So, I started learning about all the different modalities that you could try, the physical
Yeah.
therapy, the occupational therapy, bandaging, vibration plates,
Yeah, we'll touch on that a little bit later too.
different,
I wanted to make that a topic for
yeah.
sure with you.
And things like that. So, it's been, when she has that vlog on Sundays, What a Ride, it has
Mm-hmm.
been a ride.
Mm-hmm.
These past 8, 9 years, knowing her and this organization and what they've taught me
Mm-hmm.
has just expanded my horizon.
Right. Right.
After the first master class, I said to Catherine, I said, I know that there was a light at the end of the tunnel, and I used to think that light was a train. But after the
Mm-hmm.
master, I realized that light was hope. There's so much hope out there, and I know that the struggle is real. I know that being judged by your doctors and your family,
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
don't you
Just
not
lose
trying
weight. Go on a diet.
everything? Just
You have no
no.
discipline.
Right. So, and
I
we've all
know.
heard those
It's
things.
sad. Yeah. I've had family do
But
intervention with me, and bless their hearts, really, because they were concerned, but
yeah,
it was so good when you figure it out and you're just like, this isn't my fault. This is the way my body
right,
works and it's not my fault.
right.
So that was huge for me. Looking at and listening to your experience with Lipedema Simplified and talking to Dr. Catherine, I'm just wondering, if you had to pick one best takeaway that you had from being involved with Lipedema Simplified, what would that one best takeaway be? I know it's hard to choose because we have all these wonderful things.
Supportive.
Worth?
It's a supportive community.
Oh, support.
Supportive.
Support.
Support.
Good.
The support is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Just talking to the other ladies, talking to the speakers, if any of you attended any of the conferences or fireside
Mm-hmm.
chats, the support that's there, I don't have to explain what I mean by certain things that I'm
Mm-hmm.
experiencing because this
Mm-hmm.
group says, oh, yeah, I've had that. I've been there. You and I have just been doing that these past 10, 15 minutes. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
wonderful to be
Yeah.
heard and
Yeah.
seen and still treasured.
Right. That's wonderful. And then moving into the tribe, that's a whole nother step. Just being involved
Yes,
with the tribe. I believe you're in the tribe. And can
I
you just
am.
share a little bit about what parts do you love about being in the paid? It's like a paid membership to be part of the tribe. Can you maybe explain what you
Right.
love?
It is. Mm-hmm. Definitely, because the tribe is really where I felt more connected than just an occasional conference or a webinar. I
Mm-hmm.
can make daily connections with those in the tribe. Monday through Friday, they have Movement with Miranda. Unfortunately, my schedule doesn't let me get in there too often. But it's a gentle movement. Miranda White is wonderful in those videos, so that's part of
We're
it.
all together, right?
Um,
You could see each other and be together, like being in the gym
yeah,
together.
and we do that. Exactly. And it's like a 15-minute schmooze before, just like you do in the gym. Everybody comes early and
Mm-hmm.
they chit chat and we learn about each other's lives and what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that connection. The tribe, I also take part in the artsy fartsy crafts.
Yeah, that's a
There's
fun
another.
group. Yeah.
Yes, but it's, once a month we just meet and we do our craft or we share our craft of what we've done.
Mm-hmm.
And you get so much support. oh, that's wonderful. Oh, I'd love to have that. Sometimes a gift will show up on your doorstep from somebody. It's just
I've missed it the last couple of times, unfortunately. I want to get back in. That's my girls, I'm a painter, so all crafty stuff. So yeah, I've missed it totally. We had talked briefly. And, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. There's just
the only last thing I was going to mention,
resources.
I know. Wisdom Circle. I do want to mention that because that meets once a month also. And I was intimidated at first by Wisdom Circle, thinking, well, I don't have any wisdom to give. What do they want? What are they expecting? Basically, we're getting together, tossing out ideas and researching them to see what applies to the community best and what we can do to move it forward. And that's where a lot of these conferences ideas have come up, and fireside chats and different webinars. So yeah. Okay,
iron sharpens iron. That's wonderful.
It does.
When I first asked you if you would be on the show tonight, and we were talking briefly, I was very impressed with your overcoming spirit. And so that's always something that's like so encouraging and inspiring for everybody in the community. Can you maybe just share, talk about how did you become stronger in overcoming the challenges that we face with lipedema, lymphedema, all of that kind of stuff? Can you share a little bit of that?
Sure. Well, I can tell you, besides the lipedema and the lymphedema, I've had many medical issues throughout my life. So was, survival of the fittest. I was actually born a twin, and my twin didn't survive because she just wasn't strong enough. So that powering spirit has been a part of me. I can be, negative. I have had my days where I throw tantrums in my mind about, if I could actually get on the floor and I might, but
it's getting up off the floor that's the trouble.
Exactly. So, but I found that if I really clung to the positives and the different changes that have come about in my life because of hanging in there, and my faith in Jesus has always been strong. And I just believe if I keep putting one foot in front of the other, I will be able to get through whatever life is throwing at me, and, including prayer and church. But I know that there's some people that don't believe in that. But just the positivity of saying, okay, I've got an ulcer. Now what am I going to do? Oh, what's going to happen? I can dwell on all the difficult things that can happen and where this might lead to in the absolute worst scenario. But I'm better off dwelling on, okay, how can we heal this? How can this get better? What can I do? What am I doing that's causing it or not causing it? It's just trying to look at things, with hope. Okay. I know that there are issues that's some I won't overcome, but there are some that I have overcome. I've been able to move around better and have better mobility just by making sure I get out of the house 3 or 4 times a week. It's not even that often, but it's enough to keep me mobile. I was fitted for a wheelchair. I have one. I no longer use it. I use a walker instead. And, do I like the fact that I had to use a walker by the age of 35? No, I hated it. I went away. I was embarrassed. I was mad.
It's like a stigma thing.
But yeah, and it's really just a matter of, okay, if I want to get from here to there, this is what I have to do. So in order to do that, I want to do different things. So
I'm transitioning right now from a walker to using a cane. And my hope is to not have to use any of it, And two, I was fitted for a wheelchair too, and I never used it. the doctor told me that I was never going to be able to walk again. And I was just like, don't you speak that over me. You know? And at that time we lived in the mountains and we had this beautiful property. And I was like, no, I'm going to be walking that property. And that was many years ago, you know, before my mobility started really getting more and more difficult. But yeah, I'm with you, and just believing for the best and pushing forward, and you know, doing everything that you can to, you know, build that confidence. And yeah, I mean, I've got my handy little walker sitting here. It's so cute. Some of my friends made a real cute flowery bag for me, and then she put a liner on the. I have the kind that has the seat, you know. And I always told people, "Oh, I love my walker. I mean, it gives me confidence, and I can walk." And I just bought a beach walker because we live in eastern area of North Carolina with the big giant wheels. And so, you know, my thing is, I'm going to join a gym and I'm going to make my legs stronger. Even if I just go for 10 minutes and walk on that treadmill, you know, getting out of the house and building my strength. You know, I just think there's a lot in that. And I'm looking forward to the day where I can be without any cane or, you know, any of that stuff. So I believe for it. I think it's a good thing.
One foot in front of the other.
Not giving up.
No.
I know that you had, oh, I'm sorry, what?
Definitely not giving up.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree.
We had talked about a video that you ran across, a documentary that Catherine Seo had put out. And I know for me, when I watched it, it was eye-opening. And I've shared it, you know, with my family in an email and just said, hey, I would just like for you to watch this to have some understanding. And I think we got the link for it in the chat. If you haven't watched this, ladies, please watch this documentary and share it with your family and friends. It's free and it's very well done. Can you share anything about that, Gerri?
I think seeing people with legs that look like my legs, arms that look like my arms, seeing people who look like me absolutely helped my journey, because I wasn't seeing anyone who looked like me, and they had a name for it. And, you know, enough of people were interested enough that a documentary was put together about it, and it shares some of Catherine's story. And I just think that knowledge is power. We have a doctor on our board, Dr. Carmody, and he always says the wisdom is with the patient. And I also believe that only the patient can give voice to that wisdom. If we're not telling them how we feel, how we're moving, what we're doing, they're not going to ever understand any of it. And whether they empathize or they don't, they still need to know, hey, when I get up in the morning, I'm stiff. I'm sore. I have trouble. I got to roll out of bed, you know, to hit the floor. And when you say, well, just get up out of bed and go do your thing. And it's like, okay, let me tell you what it means to get up out of bed.
Yeah.
So,
I see Catherine.
But the documentary.
Catherine's online with us. So yay. We're singing your praises, Catherine, and we wanted to share about your documentary. So thank you for joining us. You know, one of the things that we talked about too is self-esteem. And so many of us, you know, growing up and having family and friends say things, or just recently, I went through a ceremony, a personal ceremony, and there was a video of my husband and I dancing, and we were just celebrating and dancing, and my goodness gracious, my bottom has taken on a life of its own. But I didn't realize how much, you know, until I saw this video, and I was like, oh my word. So I don't know. It was just like a eye opener. But then I started getting down on myself, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that bottom," So I don't know. It was just starting. My whole thing is loving your body right where you are, and so that
Until
self.
you see it from a different angle.
Oh gosh. And then that's what I thought. I thought maybe it was just the angle or what I was wearing, you know. But that whole self-esteem thing, especially for women, have you dealt with any of those kind of thoughts yourself?
I have. I did not have a very kind family life. I mean, I had a very, very supportive mom, but other people in my family were brutal. And I didn't say much until I got into college. And people started accepting me for my thoughts and ideas and my sense of humor, my kindness. They didn't look at my body that much. It was not a part of their vocabulary, not a part of how they dealt with me. It was just, hey, let's go do this, or hey, oh, you're funny, let's bring you along. And it's like, okay, that's great. I think that most of us deal with some form of self-esteem issues. I still deal with them. There's still times I'm afraid to speak up in a non-medical setting because I think, oh, I don't have anything to share. But I chastise myself afterwards, not severely, but enough to say, well, next time, just try it. If they shoot you down, okay. But if they don't and they get something out of it, then you're that much further ahead. So,
and I don't think
it's that
people
positivity.
notice as much as we notice. Yeah, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, I agree with you. I don't think people notice as much as we notice.
Yeah,
And
so
she sent me the video of her dancing, and I have to say, she just looked beautiful.
Oh, you're sweet.
Tamara.
I appreciate that. Yeah. So, yeah, it's just a thing. We just got to keep going. I want to hear about some of the modalities that you use. We had talked about CBD, a vibration plate, and you had mentioned a couple other things. So if you wouldn't mind just kind of dissecting that a little bit about what they are and how it helps you.
Okay. One of the first things I tried, besides the bandaging and the manual lymph drainage, which I had through an occupational therapist, my doctor ordered that. And the bandaging, they're short bandages that you wrap around your legs or your arms or wherever your problem areas are. But you need certain training for that. So there was that. I started that right away. Vibration plate, they were starting to talk about vibration plate when I started that. And basically, it's just a machine you set on the floor and it literally vibrates you. Now, I have bone-on-bone knees. I've had that since I was about 10, 11 years old. So I am not able to stand on a vibration plate, but I sit. And I put my feet on the plate and I turn it on to a low setting. And what it does is it helps break up some of the fibrotic areas in your tissues, the really hard tissue areas that you feel and think, what is that? It started breaking that up. And the more I broke that up, the more fluid I started releasing because it wasn't blocking the lymphatic any longer. So,
and how long do you use it for? The vibration
I believe it went for like 10 to 15 minutes. I only started out at like 3 to 5 minutes because that was about all my knees could tolerate. And I did end up with more knee pain with it the more I used it. So I did back off of that. But if you're able to tolerate it, it's great. I've heard people who sit on it with their bum. They sit on it and they jiggle their upper part of the body, or they lay their arm on it and they jiggle that part, so whatever you can tolerate and whatever, like I said, me on the floor, not a good idea. I've also used pneumatic compression pumps, and there's a couple of companies out there. Basically, what I do is I slip into this shell that goes from my toes up to about mid-waist, and it's all one piece. What I use, it's a lymphopress,
That's what I have.
and it presses you and opens you up, and compresses and opens and relaxes. So I kind of call it like
so relaxing. I just use that as self-care. I love it. When I have time, you know, it is cumbersome. I don't know about yours. Mine is pretty cumbersome, and I can't get in and out of it by myself. My husband has to kind of, you know, move me around and zip it up. And then I have the jacket too. But and then they always say to sit up when you do the jacket. And even when you're doing the leg one, it's good to prop your head up. So we'll get like a couch cushion and put it behind me. So I'm kind of sitting up a little bit on the bed. It's just good for your, you know, for your veins to do that. But I love my job. I'll go in there and shut the door and put on some soft soaking music and close my eyes. And it just feels like having a massage. Well, not as wonderful as a massage, but it feels really good.
Not as wonderful, but it does. It really does feel good. And you're right. I get relaxed. By the last 20 minutes, I can't hardly hold my eyes open. You know? It's like, wait a minute, let's for another hour. I'm not ready to sleep yet.
So,
what are the things? Keto diet or the low fat diets, low carb. I'm sorry, high fat, low carb diets. I still use that modified. I'm not able to get down to the 20% or less of fat. I don't tolerate it very well. I start getting other symptoms. So I do moderate fat. I'm sorry, high fat, moderate carbs. So I go up to about 40 carbs.
40 grams.
I'll do 60.
Is that what you said? 40 grams.
Yeah. I think I said milligrams. I meant grams. But yeah, I do that. Yeah. And I've lost around 120 pounds since I started it back in 2018.
Wow.
So it's a process. I've been on it. I've been off of it. But I found now that if I eat sugar, it goes right to my knees. The pain and the pressure increases within minutes of sugar. And so it was a good lesson to learn.
Yeah, for sure. I've been off sugar for a while, and then at Christmas, I was off sugar for 5 years. And then last Christmas, I splurged like crazy. And then you start craving it. And it was bad, you know, and then I was getting the heart palpitations all the time from the sugar, and it was just not a good experience, you know. And there's so many other healthy options out there, like the monk fruit or the stevia, you know, that and fruit. I love fruit, you know, and it's you know, if you're watching your carbs, you got to watch a certain amount of that. But you know, I love having sweet fruit or berries. I love berries.
So berries are low in carbs.
Yeah, that inflammation is hard to deal with. Let's talk about the CBD. I know you're involved in a CBD study. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, Brian Hayward originally came into the group through knowing Catherine, another one of us who got in here through Catherine. And he is a retired chemical engineer who he had arthritis in his hands, and he's very active in his life, and he loved to golf and play tennis, things like that. So he was looking for something that would help with the relief of the arthritis, and came across CBD. And as a chemical engineer brain, he just basically tore down the substances that he was using. What is in it? Where did it come from? What is the amount that you need? Be, you know, effective, you know. So what he did is when he, you know, met up with Catherine, he did a fireside chat, and I tuned into that because I was interested in CBD, but honestly, I was not a holistic type person where, you just go the natural way and don't, I'm a Western medicine girl from day one. And
right. Well, being a
nurse,
nurse, I would understand that. Yeah.
So, yeah. So, I do not have a lot of faith in the natural stuff. I've learned now, and it's definitely been an eye opener. But when he started offering it to the CBD or to the lipedema community, I thought, I'll try it. I was allergic to aspirins and NSAIDs, and so I thought, I've got nothing else to lose. So I tried it. The first day I took the CBD capsule.
Oh, it's a capsule.
I was, it was a capsule at that point. And I was just absolutely astounded. I never realized how much pain I was in until the pain went away. And it took away a lot of the pain in my tissues. One thing to have joint pain, but I had tissue pain and just soreness all the time. And it started relieving that. So, Brian and I have talked over the years. He offers different pricing units and he offers different options for you. And, we decided that we wanted to be able to prove to the lipedema community that CBD does help with those with lipedema. And we wanted to do this study, but nothing formal, like as far as being, a research study. This is just a project. We're trying to see where we're at with what CBD is doing. So it's a 4-week study. For 4 weeks, one day every week, you fill out some surveys. It's like mostly yes or no questions, or a scale 1 to 10. And you fill that out. And Brian and I review everything with you. We'll call and do like a 5-minute meeting with you and say, hey, how's it going this week? Do you have any questions, any problems? And we're starting to see that some people are being helped by it. Some people aren't. Or some people may need a higher dose or need a lower dose because they're just reacting. THC in it is, I believe it's like 0.07%. So there are some people who are sensitive to that tiny amount. And so then we just tell them, well, try the liniment, see if that works for you instead of taking it internally. And the liniment I use works, because there are days when it's raining or it's snowing. And so I put some extra on my knees. That helps support the CBD capsules that I'm taking. So that is basically where that has been. And there's no start time, end time. It's just 4 weeks long. Anytime you start the new CBD product, and we prefer it be new to CBD, whether it's the liniment or the capsules. And we do that. You start the product, you start the surveys that week. 4 weeks later, you're done. We might call you in a month and say, hey, how's things going? Do you want to continue with it or don't you want to continue with it? And it's really their choice. I'm not trying to pressure anybody into buying certain things. We're just trying to help the lipedema community get some pain relief. If not for that pain relief, I would not be moving like I do.
Yeah. And I think it's important to say, to make sure you're buying from a reputable company, like yours. So, or like Brian's, because it's organic and it's,
It's organic. He knows the farmers. He knows the farm. He knows the quality of the product. He had taught me one time that things that we get from overseas, whether it be China or some other country, they often use CBD plants for cover crops to help leach out toxins from the soils. So if you're getting it from a different country, it may, and I can't say for sure, but it may contain toxins in there or heavy metals that's what you're wanting, and it's not working as well. And
you're
I'm
doing
trying different kinds.
Healthier.
But if anybody is interested, please feel free to get in touch with me. We'll put my email in the chat. If can Akancha put my email in the chat, or do you need me to do it?
Maybe put it in the. Yeah, you could type it in probably. Jenny is asking, does it still contain the THC? So you were saying it's a very minute amount.
Yes, it's a very minute amount. So it has it in there. I do just, okay, thank you. I did ask my doctors about it. They were fine with that. I work with the pain management group, and they were fine with what I was taking in addition to adding on the CBD. That was not an issue for them. But I did make sure, because I'm on a lot of medications. I have a lot of medical issues. Didn't want any issues. So I cleared it with them.
Yeah, that's important.
And for this study, we asked that you talk it over with your doctor. So, yeah.
Good. Well, thank you for sharing all that. That's very interesting. I wanted to go back. Jenny had made a comment. She said, Lipedema UK this week. On Lipedema UK this week, we had a talk with Dr. Kat Schneider, who is a research fellow at the Center for Appearance Research in Bristol, UK. And if you look her up, you'll be able to find her papers. She has written about body image, weight stigma, primarily in the sport and exercise settings, and it was very interesting. So thank you for sharing that, Jenny. That's really interesting, and we'll definitely, thank you for posting that so we can all look her up. I love this, sharing. We have a few minutes before we're going to move on. Does anyone have any questions for Gerri or any comments? This is a great opportunity to talk to someone who's overcome a lot of challenges and used a lot of different modalities. And of course, she has that medical background. So anybody have any questions for her? Just drop them into the chat. And while we're waiting for the questions to come up, one of the things that I always like to do is I like to ask my guests, looking at the words loved, valued, and treasured. If you had to pick one of those words tonight, which one really resonates with you in the season you're in?
That's tonight? A challenge, because they all resonate with me, especially knowing, as a follower of Jesus, that I am loved, treasured, and valued. But I have to say love. Love overcomes so many things. And the love that you feel, that I feel in this community, has really guided me along these past 8 years. I mean, I was such a wallflower before I joined.
Really?
And now I feel like I can talk to people and share my story and interact, and that I have the right to do so, because as before, I was just like, oh, nobody wants to know what I have to say. They don't care. I'm just this fat little chick over here, Now it's like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah, I love that. So using your word loved, how can you share a word of encouragement to our community? Use the word loved and share a word of encouragement to the ladies.
Allowing love into your heart when it has been broken so many times by so many different people is a gift you give yourself. Don't shut yourself out. Don't close the world off. Just allow those who are close to you to love you. Allow this community to love you and support you. I think it will make a world of difference.
I love that. I wrote it down. I have all these affirmation things. You can't see it because I'm facing that wall, but I like to put up different affirmations during the week. So I love that. I wrote it down. I think everybody needs to write that one down and repeat it out loud. And yes, definitely invite that love into your life for sure. For sure. Well, Sherry says Gerri is always shared love with others. Oh, that's super sweet.
Thank you, Sherri.
Does anybody, before we move on, does anybody have a question? Sharing, not shared. Yes. Anybody have a question for her? You have a burning question. You're just like, I should ask that question. So this is your opportunity. Okay, well, if you have something that you think about after, make sure you drop it into the chat and she will see it and be able to follow back with you. So I have some announcements before we close. We have a conference coming up. We just had one, and here we are. We're already planning for the fall conference, and super excited about the one that's coming up. It's very holistic forward, and it is on September 26th to the 28th. We have an early bird that you can sign up for it. We always love to give the discounts and receive the discounts, right? So the early bird is $197, and I believe it's like a $400 value. So get in now while you can get the discount for sure. It's a great opportunity to connect with other tribe members and people who are just like you, who want to learn with all the experts coming in. And I think there's a new book that's coming out that's written by many of the leadership team with Lipedema Simplified. And here's the name of it. They're on the bottom. And it's amazing. I know the first conference that I attended, I learned so much. It's virtual. I don't know. I want to make sure that you know that it's virtual, but we're all on there together, and there's prizes you can win, and you get to hear from some amazing experts. And I don't know. I just think it's the best ever. Do you want to share anything about your experience with the conferences?
I know for myself, seeing those conferences and having the chat breakout rooms where you get to talk to 4 or 5 different people about what they're hearing and what they're taking away from. It just makes me realize that we're all going through so much of the same things. And just that camaraderie is what helps get me through. So I just think they're wonderful, these conferences. They're a little taxing sometimes, but pace yourself and hydrate yourself, feed yourself, and enjoy for as much as you can. Yep.
And even for the people who don't want to participate, because there are some, they're like, oh, I don't want to be in, I don't want to talk or anything. We have what we call a quiet room. So when they're doing the little breakout sessions, if you just want to go to the quiet room, it's just quiet, and you just have a waiting space where you can just kind of breathe and stretch and be calm for yourself. So there's something for everybody. Chris just asked this question, Gerri. She says, how do you feel about GLP-1s? Do you have an opinion on that?
Okay, I do for myself. Now, I'm not giving any medical advice for others. This is just for what it did for me. I was on 2 ones and nothing happened. I got switched to a 3rd one, and I noticed that my weight started melting off a little quicker. About 5 pounds a month, which may not seem like a lot to some, but in this community, it's tough to lose the weight 1 pound at a time. So, between 5 pounds a month was about what I was getting. And I haven't had any adverse reactions to it that I'm aware of. And I found that it's not that I ate so much, but it curbs my appetite, as in I don't want as much of, if I get a munchie, and I think, oh gosh, I just want to, munch on some berries or something. I can sit there and eat berries, and or I eat crackers if, they're around, and unfortunately they're around. And I can eat after another before the GLPs. And then after a while, it was like 2 or 3 crackers. I'm good. I've had my taste. I'm fine. It helps me to think differently about food, where I can really do the moderation part. But like I said, that was after trying 3 different kinds. So I think it's a great question to ask your doctors about and find out if it's something that would be helpful to you, because I know that there are other reasons you can have the GLPs, if not just for diabetes. So it's a great conversation to bring up with your doctors or your nurse practitioners or whoever the health provider you see.
If your insurance covers it. I know that there's compounding special places you can go for the compounding. I, on the other hand, I'm one of those people that am very sensitive to any medications. And if there's even a rare side effect, I'm going to get it. And I'm not trying to claim anything. It's just the facts. And I have a really difficult time with that. So for me, there's the different ranges. So I agree. I think that, you need to really study it, look at it, look at the side effects, and then see, what feels right. You got to have peace about it for sure. Hope says, how do you feel about fasting?
How do I feel about fasting? I'm not very good at it. I am somebody who I take medications about 5 to 6 times a day, and I don't do well on an empty stomach taking medications. Even Tylenol sometimes bother me. So I think that, if it's something that is medically safe for you, and that's, again, a question you talk to your doctor or a registered dietitian with, or a nutritionist, because it can help some people quite a bit. And I know there are quite a few that I know in the community, they eat once a day and they're good with that. They have that, 4-hour window. And after that, maybe 20 hours without eating anything. I've not been good with that. I just think about food way too often. All that, so, but
yeah, Sherry says I relate I can relate a lot of the same solutions. Yeah, go ahead. Suffering with arthritis.
Yeah.
Agree. Yeah, I like fasting, actually, and I do it for spiritual purposes as well. And one of my very best friends is I'm not going to give a lot of details, but she is treating her situation holistically, and she's fasting 3 days a week, water only, and she's lost 30 pounds in the last month. And it does amazing things for you. The first 24 hours is the hardest, I think. And then, after that, your body starts really reacting to it, and you can push out the toxins. And I think it's really an amazing process if it's something that you think you could do. I would say mark your calendar out so that you know that you're going to have some time to rest. You're detoxing as well. And when you get to that 72-hour period, your body is just like lining up. So, it's just one of the things that I really believe in, and I think it's a great thing to do, even if you just did 24 hours, but just know that 24 hours is the hardest. And then you can count your nighttime, for your sleep time. So that counts into your hours. So, try it, just try it, and I know some people do fruit juice fast, or they'll just do one meal. Well, they'll do a bone broth. I'm like, I don't know if I can live without my coffee kind of girl. So of course I use heavy cream in my coffee. So, you can have coffee, but don't have the cream. And I'm like, what's the point? So I don't eat all the sugary cream, but but there's lots and lots of different ways that you can fast, and look up the benefits and just give it a try, but also give your body a time for rest. You don't want to do it on a day when you're out and about, or you're going grocery shopping, or you got the girlfriend's lunch or whatever. So definitely, take your time with it and try it out, and maybe just go 24 hours, and then maybe the next time go 36, and then the next time go for the 72. So I think these are great questions. We're coming up on our hour. I'm going to take Jenny's question here at the end here. She says, can I ask you, do they cause you mast cell issues? So are you talking about the GLP-1s on that, Jenny? I'm thinking maybe that's what you're referring to. You can drop that question in, or a little bit of clarification. She's probably typing really fast.
Right.
Yes, so she's talking about the GLP-1. So do you know anything about that? That's out of my wisdom there.
I don't. It's out of my realm. Yeah. So sorry, Jenny. I just don't have any information on that.
Yeah, ask your doctor.
It's a good question for a pharmacist. Ask your doctor or ask your pharmacist if they know.
Great.
I find a lot of times they're very familiar with the medications and how they react in the body. So,
well, good. Well, I think this has been a great conversation. And if you guys think of any more questions that you want to ask, Gerri will be happy to answer. Or if you want to talk about fasting, I can get you some more information on that. And Gerri, I just want to thank you really so much. And I want you to know that you are truly loved, you are truly valued, and you are truly treasured. And to our audience, our community, I should say, our beautiful community, that you too, you are loved and you are valued and you are treasured. And my next podcast will be on May 28th. And I have my friend Kate Desmond coming back. She's a life coach, and come with your questions. She's pretty amazing, and so she's been on the show before, and I've asked her to come back. So please join us on the 28th if you've got some dreams that are brewing, and you just feel like, how could I ever accomplish this? We all have a destiny, and so we got to push through, we got to overcome, and we got to live through our destiny. So anyway, very grateful to have you, Gerri. Stay online when we're off here, and would just like to just talk to you a little bit more. So thank you, everybody. I'll see you soon.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.